Let's go now. Today we are going to talk about something called Ingolomosio. You know what that is? Okay, just say the word anyway. I? Yeah, they are not two words, it's just one. It's a name of a place. It's Ingolomosio. So I'll try to give you this story in a way that I remember it. I was at Ingolomosio yesterday after 39 years. I had not been to that place for 39 years. For those of you who don't know, I will be celebrating 40 years in ministry next year in April. It's going to be 40 years. Can't believe I've been here that long. Because my first preaching was in April of 1984. I may have done some talking before that, but the one that I can vividly remember is in April of 1984. I got saved on Tuesday 13th. I think so. I think it was 13th. And it was a Tuesday. On 13th of April 1982. And yeah, I remember how it happened. I had become a secretary of the Christian Union without being saved. So they said there was a camp, and the camp was coming immediately after closure of schools. So the teachers made arrangements that we don't go home first. We just go to the camp straight from school. So I went straight to the camp. It was starting on at that same Tuesday. But it was in the same school. The camp was just in the same school where I was. The camp for Kenya Student Christian Fellowship. So we stayed back on Monday and we helped in the arrangements. And on Tuesday we went for the event, the first day, and it was fire. I had never been to a Christian meeting before. You know me, I was brought up in a situation where this Christian stuff was not really one of the things we used to go for Christmas, watch, what do we call it, choirs and stuff like that. But I didn't know much about Christianity. So at this school, I got saved, and I got saved for 2 days. The story about that is for another time. The drama about how I got saved is for another day. A lot of things happened after that. Things happened from 1982 after that. But for the purpose of this presentation, I will not delve into those details. In 1984, after we closed school, I was walking around home, the village, just walking around, seeing what was going on. Of course, I had had some issues, stepped out of home and stuff like that. And I saw some young people in a church, a group of young people in a church. They were being taught. It looked like a camp also to me. So I was passing there with cows. I see them doing something, singing, and then I go back. I pass there, see them singing. But on a Friday, I remember very well it was a Friday. because the church called Israel Nineveh was having a flag outside in another area. And every time they put that flag, it was Friday. So on a Friday, while that meeting was still going on, one of the people that was running that meeting was standing outside that church, and he saw me passing with cows. And then he called me. And he looked at me straight and said, "Kijana, umebatizwa?" I said, "Yes, nimebatizwa." He said, "Okay. Walikubatiza aje? How were you baptized?" I said, they put a cross here on my head. He said, "Young man, get inside here. You don't know baptism. Get in here." So he forced me into the meeting. I got so scared. My brother was with me. So he started going with the cows. Smaller one. Me, I was a little bigger. He started going with the cows. And I ended up in the camp meeting in the church. They were teaching about baptism. For those of you who don't know, in those churches long time ago, baptism was taught for a whole week. You repented for a whole week. All the sins you have committed, stealing your mother's vegetables or breaking eggs, kulamba chumvi, yote, unatubu zote, for a whole week. So, I was repenting there also. But they had repented for a whole week. Me, I was there on Friday. And then we ended up in the Kesha. That Friday was a Kesha. You can imagine I didn't go back home. I didn't do anything else. I stayed there. The man who was running that meeting, and all these names, I remembered them yesterday when I went to Ingolomosio. I mean, it's a place of remembrance. Kind of my heart was hit. So Mukunga was, I remember he was called Joash Mukunga. He was the one who was running that meeting. And then the man who asked me to get inside was called Joshua Atha. I just remembered later on that he is actually Atha. But they call him Joshua Atha. Joshua Atha told us that Mukunga cannot baptize us because he was found in a scandal a few years ago. So he was disqualified from baptizing people. So he is the reverend who has come from headquarters to baptize people. And people must be serious. And he was talking in the presence of that Mukunga. What's up? Are you okay? Just 1 minute. I'll send you there now. Now, in the process, of course, I learned about baptism, learned about repentance and all that. And remember, I had been saved 2 years ago, but I had never seen those kind of things. I had read through my Bible, but somehow you can read a Bible and you don't know what you are reading. After that, we left the cache on Saturday morning and we were taken to the river for baptism. It was dramatic. The river was big, but they of course shielded some area and put some kind of leaves around it so that you could enter like you are entering a thicket. Then you go and be baptized there. It was tough. I can't describe it. Got baptized, went back to the church, stayed in the church. On Sunday morning, we were still in that church now to give a testimony. Everybody must give a testimony. That is how things used to run. For you who was just baptized kienyeji hapo kwa kona kwa swimming pool, things are different. That was on the 14th day of April. 14th was a Saturday. 15th was a Sunday. 1984 April. I hope I'm right. But I can remember, I can't forget those dates. Then we left that place. I went home. And my father was furious. He was not furious for anything else. My brother had told him that I had entered the church. And if there's something he didn't want, it's anything to do with church. So to cut the whole story short, I was sent away and things happened here and there. And I ended up going back where I had gone. You know, in 1982, I actually went to stay with someone else called Peter James Onguko. So I had just come back home briefly. So I went back to this man. And we found ourselves 3 young people there. Yes, I remember them. The first guy I remember that was very vibrant in Christ was called Nicholas Andala. He comes from some village called Konyero. That is interesting, eh? I remember that. I'm glad I'm putting this on video so that it can now be recorded properly. Because I give these stories in halves. But from yesterday, my mind became photographic. I can remember things of 1969 clearly. So, Nicholas and Patrick Okech were staying with me at Onguko's. So one morning, early in the morning, Onguko comes and pushes away our blankets. He was, of course, a principal of a girls' school. It was called Shikoti Girls Secondary School. He was the principal of that school. So he used to behave like a principal. He just came and pulled our blankets. Toka! Vijana, muka! So we just, everybody, everybody. Then he said, ingia kwa gari. There was a car parked outside, written Shikoti Girls. These box vehicles, you remember them? The box, zilikuanga za mashule kitambo mabox. Then ya bench. Zimewekwa mabench. And it's a school van. So we got into that van. And of course, the passengers used to sit outside. You know that type of vehicle. And him and the driver were sitting in front. So we are there 3 people and just wondering where we were going. I was dressed in a kinyasa and a shirt, t-shirt. So we kept going. We end up to some place called Kambi ya Mwanza. And then we tried to go in for a little bit, but the road was very bad. So he stopped the vehicle there. And then he looked at them. He looked at us. He came out, opened the door. This door used to be latched from outside. So once you enter, you are locked inside. And the guy from outside is the one who will open it. So he came and opened. Then he let us out. He said, young people. It was on 18th of April 1984 on Wednesday. He said, young people, get out. He used to talk like that. Go, you see that mountain? Go there is a place, pray. Go there and pray, there is a place. So we started wondering now, how is this going to work? Me, I'm in a t-shirt and shorts, the shule. Because you know, longi nilikuwa nayo moja na ni ya Sunday. So we start going to that area He said, you'll go to this place, you'll find somebody repairing bicycles. You will ask him where the place is, and he will take you. And you know, those days there were no phones, so you have to just follow instructions. If something doesn't work, you make it work. So we walked and walked and walked, and for some reason, people knew that place. So they directed us. We went to the mountain. I can't remember the name of this guy who directed us, but he was kind enough to take us all the way to the mountain. So he took us to this mountain called Ingolomosio. So while we are at this mountain, we walked for, by the way, we walked for about 4.5 hours to get to that mountain. It's not like it's not like a walk in the park. From where he dropped us, we walked 4.5 hours. We go to this mountain, my friend, we are tired. Now it was about 5:30. We are tired. And we have nothing to eat, and there's nothing on that hill. There's nothing on that mountain. No water point, nothing. There's a little house, round grass thatched house that was on that mountain, and it was on the top. And the man who took us there was giving us stories, saying, so you are going to pray for how long? Somebody came here and prayed for 40 days. So when we got there, praying, what will I be saying? On 18th of April, yes, 18th of April, 5:30, about 6 o'clock, it was getting like this almost. And you would see it is all forest, and it's on top of a hill. And you look down there, it's a long way. So I was wondering how I would run away, because I was not going to pray for 21 days. So I planned on how I'm going to exit the next day. Andala was a prayer warrior, my friend. And he was speaking in a language which I came to learn later that it was tongues. Me, I thought he had learned it from Machakos. Because the story about him was that he had gone to live with someone in Machakos. So I thought that now he has come with some Machakos language. But the way he was doing it like this. So it was very scary. So I spent more time watching him than praying. There were snakes passing. That place was bushy. You know these big lizards that sit on mountains and they do like this? They were there. I don't know why those lizards do that. You know those lizards? They like to do like this. And it's like they lift up their head, they look at you, and then shake. Those lizards were there. We were watching them. On the hills, you know, there were so many rocks in that place. So I tried to do it like Andala, pray like him now. I tried to shake my head, but the language was not coming, that kind of language. So I spoke in my language, Swahili, English, everything was. Now I finished everything like in less than 10 minutes. I had finished everything that I want to tell God. But this man was still talking. So watched this story, this prayer. The next day, the 6th day, my friend, I was not going to survive. I knew I was going to die. I was hungry. Tumeenda paka kwa matawi, tumelamba maji. Unajua hakuna maji. So unaenda kwa matawi asubuhi, unalamba maji. It was tough. On that 6th day, I decided that I was going to leave. So I sneaked out. I left them praying. They were doing all this. So I pretended that I was praying and walking. Praying and walking. And then I disappeared. And I was going home. So I rolled down the hill, and it is very far. Then, when I was just at the foot of this mountain, I saw a woman coming. She was short and stout and carrying a basket on her head. And she was not touching the basket. She was just balancing. You know how women walk in the villages there? They just put a big basket on the head and they are just walking like it's nothing. So she was just walking. She was really short and stout. So I was going to ask her for something to eat. So when she moved closer, I lifted up my mouth to say something. Then she stopped and looked at me, and I blacked out. I think because of hunger or something, I went dead. I just could hear people touching my legs, like pulling them. I didn't know what was happening, but I was blacked out. That's where my story of ministry starts. While in that state, blacked out, I saw a crowd of people. I have never seen that number of people. It was a host of people, crowd. And they were all dressed in two colors. Some were dressed in pure white, and others were dressed in purple. And it's like they had formed patterns. Then one person who appeared like was right above others, although they were like the same size, but he was like more hanging. You know what I mean? I don't know whether you have seen those videos where people look like they are in a cloud coming at you. So I saw this guy now coming close, and he was dressed in in mixture of purple and white, but the rest, some had purple, some white. But this one person had both colors. So he came, and in my face, now it's like a dream, like a vision. You know, I didn't know what it was, but I was blacked out. And I had no consciousness of where I was at that time. So he comes and he calls my name. And then he says, I am the angel of the Lord. Those are the words that he used. And he said, and then he looked at me. When he looked at me and my eyes caught his eyes, I began to see my life unfolding. It started from the past. And then it put a break. You know what I mean? You see life unfolding. It's not like he's giving you a story, but he just looks at you and you start seeing your life. Then I saw it up to some point. And then it goes like it has disappeared. And then he begins again. Now it looked like I was seeing something for the future. And it would bring the year and then bring all information. Nobody talking. Just, how do I explain this? Information coming to you from somewhere. It's not written, and it's not a narration, but it's a knowledge. And it's so clear that you can explain it. I can give you every detail of that experience. So I see the first year that I saw was 1988. That one passed quickly. 1994 had a lot of details. Then from 1994 we skipped to 2004. From 2004 I skipped to 2014. From 2014 skipped again to 2024, which is next year. Now, everything that I saw in that vision, in that dream, whatever it was, has happened exactly like that. I got confidence that I was seeing the right thing, of course, long time ago, because I've experienced it. So 2024 is next year. And it's going to be the most difficult. That's when I was given the vision about my calling and ministry. I know many people see me doing certain things for ministry and they think that I sit down, study, and then get a revelation. No, it's not true. It is a blueprint of an old thing. Are you hearing me? Come on, are you hearing me? So anyway, at that place, I stayed in a coma until the next day. When I woke up, I looked around and there were only two ladies there. One was called Joanna and the other was called Sarah.